Well, doesn't it only bring it up till...
Hey guys!
Hi.
Sorry, I'm just wondering if my chat is broken or if it's fine. It looks a little sad, like it looks like nobody's here to greet us. Like William said hi, Crystal said hi, William said hi again. Crystal, you know, you guys are like having a little conversation, but where's Dean? It's a weird day. I don't know what to do with myself if Dean's not giving somebody a hard time already on the YouTube chat. But in any case, can you hear me? Does everybody hear me? Everybody good? Hey, there's Frank from Mississippi. Cool. All right. I'm gonna take that as it's not broken. Thanks everybody. Look at that. Look.
Hey,
see? Look, people are here. Alrighty, today I think that we're gonna have a really awesome little show for you. Basically, the plan is that Andy is going to pretend that I am here buying a sewing machine for the very first time and I need some information about how to run it. So today we brought in the Class 3, which if you have a Class 4, it's the same machine, it all lays out the same way, it just has a longer throat. So anything that we talk about with the 3 applies to the 4. And then we've got ourselves a Class 20, which is a flatbed. And then behind me, we've got our Class 26, which is what you normally see us use in here. So we're gonna kind of go through each machine the same way. I'm gonna be like, hey Andy, I'm buying a Class 3. Tell me all the things I need to know. And then hopefully he'll do that. And then we do have a couple questions from you guys that have been submitted, but also if you have a question about the machine that we're working on, that would be preferable, so that we can kind of answer it in tone. So just like if you have a question about a Class 20, wait till we're done with a Class 3 and then ask your question in there. On Friday, we will be going through the bell knife skiver, the strap cutter, and the Class 14 splitter. So if you have questions about those machines, please wait until Friday, or if you're not going to be able to be live with us on Friday to ask your question, like send us an email or shoot us a message on Facebook and we'll write it down and we can answer it then. So, what's up Archie? I feel like it's been a minute since I've seen your name pop up on the chat. So, good morning Jessa. Welcome all. All right, Andy, let's start with the Class 3. Sell it to me. Or I guess I've already bought it. Please show me what I'm doing with it.
Well, I'll try and show you guys here.
Thanks.
I don't know what
Oh, that's real close. Why don't we do maybe a wider shot to begin with?
I don't know what we need to look at. The machine's kind of turned in a very poor
Well, we can
position
turn it to whatever angle we need to here.
Yeah, you need to face the microphone.
Oh, we need a face? All right.
Do we just want to roll this to the middle?
Yep. Sorry guys, it's hard to get machines everywhere all at once.
Hello, Luna.
Look, there's a wiggle butt. Huh. Hey, Luns. I'm gonna get my coffee.
Alright. Yep, more of an angle.
Martin, these are the machines that we stock and that we sell. And so, like, if you have an Artisan 3 or 4,000, that would be a similar machine. There's a couple Juki styles. Do you know the names of the Jukis that are similar to these?
No, then there's also Texo.
Yeah.
Cowboy.
Like, yeah, the Cowboy, I think they also have like a 3 and 4,000. They're gonna be really similar to this machine that we're doing right now. I don't have the other machines. We don't sell them. And so I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm the expert, although they are all sewing machines are very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Rebranded.
Exactly, I don't have one to sit here and show you. So if you have a question, you can ask it. And if we don't know it, we can get with Jim later and see if he's got an answer. He's kind of our all-around machine tech guy, and he works on people's machines that they'll bring in. So we can try. It's just this is what we sell. So this is what we're gonna talk about.
All right. So what are we looking at here?
Looking at your back.
Looking at my back.
Right here.
All right.
Are we gonna thread the machine?
Yeah, if we get the side shot.
All right, so first we're going to start off with how to thread your Class 3 or Class 4. I think you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to start there.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I usually go through, halfway around.
Oh, your
through.
wrist is in the way, so because we're on this side of you. There you go.
Another way. You can use this for tension. I never do. I more or less use it to just get little little curly cues like that out. As you get an older bobbin, they'll start to do that when they come off because it gets smaller and smaller.
Hold on, before you continue, you can't really see it. This right here is what's called a thread stand. You've got 2 holders over here for your thread. One can be used to run a bobbin. The other one is used to thread your machine. You have to have some sort of this type of setup on your machine in order to run, because all sewing machine spools need to be pulled from the top and then go down. So like a lot of times people, if you're brand new to the machine and you've changed the thread or something is different and you're having issues with what you've got going on, make sure that you're coming out of this eye up here, you're coming up and out. Because sometimes people will just take it and they'll just start doing this and they'll forget this thing, and this is very, very important. Yep. It's also very important if you are having tension issues, like from the get-go, make sure that your bobbin is not sitting on the thread.
Yeah.
Right? So like before you actually start, make sure that your thread is not under the spool before you get going, because that will mess everything up. So just a couple of things. If you are having tension issues, it's not sewing well, just start at the beginning, make sure that everything is flowing from literally the spool of thread off. All right, now you go.
All right.
I'll pretend like I don't know anything again.
You got these little things, and this will help get rid of that. I'm going to move to the side here. I don't know. Yeah, you can see it. So you've got a little loop on, this is your main tensioner right here. I'm going to go through your loop. It's on the back side, but it looks just like this little loop right here. There you go. Over the top, make sure it's in there.
You guys hear that click?
And then I go back through that loop, so there's no way for it to pop out of that tensioner. And one other thing I forgot to mention, so you've got your foot release lever right here, and if you lift it up, this is very loose.
You're releasing the tension off the machine. It's the same as like...
It wedges a little wedge in there and separates your tension.
So you want to have your presser foot up whenever you're threading the machine, because that opens up all the tensioners.
And this way I'll probably do wrong the first time, but I generally know. So you go through this little hole here, and then you want to wrap one full time. That's the wrong direction. I always do it wrong.
So you went around twice?
It's like, yeah, I guess 1.5 times, twice.
Okay.
My brain is not working very well this morning. And you want to go back through this. I guess it's easier just to, sorry. I'll start from scratch here.
Okay.
Counterclockwise. 1. I guess it's basically 2. Then go back up through this right here. As I just fumble it. It's easier than I'm making it look. Get through there.
All right, so that also clicks into place?
Yeah.
Okay. And through your take-up arm?
Take-up arm. Then this is a little spring-loaded. You slide it through there. Alright. Might have to go down on this camera a little bit.
Look, Andy's gonna be a camera. He's over here.
Fine. Aren't you just going through your needle after you went through that guide?
So you've got this little top loop. Then you've got a hole on the left side of your
Needle arm?
needle arm. Yeah, that sounds like a good.
That's probably what it's called. Don't quote me on that.
And you always want to go left to right with your thread.
Ouch.
with this foot, I'm not sure. I think they come with an open foot, but I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've looked at a brand new one. I'm gonna go down through this foot. This is a closed foot. Here's your bobbin case. There's a little tiny.
Can you actually, Tony, we need to still be a little bit, maybe zoomed out a little bit so we can see the whole bobbin. Okay, perfect.
There's a little tiny lever right here. You can, if you got small enough fingers, you can push it. If not, close your scissors and just push up on it so you're not gouging anything. The bobbin will work both ways, but the easiest way is counterclockwise. And if your bobbin is wound to the end, like this.
Down. There. Oh, no, up a little bit. They're right there.
I like to unwind a little bit and wind it in the center. It just makes it easier to get in your tension spring.
So if you're too far on one end.
Yeah. I'll get this rotated up a little bit. And there's a little groove right here. I'm going to keep tension on this and slide it. Now it's up in there. And just to show why I wind it in the middle, a lot of the times when it's towards the end, it just likes to spin until it gets to the middle, like that.
So either way, you're gonna get to the middle.
And then just make sure it doesn't pop out, push it, and it's closed. Alright, now grabbing your bottom thread, don't put tension on this, just hold it, just make sure it doesn't take it down to the bottom. You could either hand advance it or with your foot.
Move your hand maybe. There we go. We were focused on your hand and not the machine.
Alright, that's it. And there's normally a cover for this, I'm not sure where it's at.
We mostly sew without the cover. You should probably put the cover on. Just
As long as you're not
fine.
doing this with a belt strip or something, you should be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see here, Anderson, just a couple of things.
Yep.
So these machines do have, like, especially the class 3 and the class 4, they run off lots and lots of tension. And so if you don't have a closed foot, or you never want to pull your thread straight from the needle and then try to pull it to the side to pull more thread out, because you're going to snap the tip of your needle off.
Yeah.
Every time. So if you do have a closed foot, make sure you run the thread through the foot first. And then you can pull to the side based off of the tension of the foot that you're running, but never just pull your thread. And if you're trying to pull more excess thread off the end, you never just want to pull it out because you're just going to break that tip of the needle off.
See, I took it out of the foot here.
Yeah, and
I'm just barely tugging on it. And one, you're going to run your needle into your foot and maybe even your feed dog. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
And then also, let's go over the position of the needle whenever you put the needle in.
Let's see if I can find it. Ooh, that was heavier than I expected. Here we go. Here's a really big one. Which one's most zoomed in? This
That one
one's
right there.
still. Alright. So. Yep, okay. The side that you put your thread through, there's a thread groove. You always want that to the left. And then on the right side, there's a curve or a cutout, whatever you want to call it, on the right side. That's where your hook grabs through.
Yeah, so the hook comes up very specifically and rocks through, I believe that's called the scarf. Of the needle. So you always want to make sure that that is on the side, the outside. The outside of the machine?
You want this on the inside.
That on the inside.
You want the needle groove, the thread
Okay.
groove on the left.
Gotcha. The side that your thread is
Yeah.
coming down on.
So if you have tension problems, it might be that reason, because it's basically doubling the size of the hole because your thread has no little groove to go down.
Nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's always something to check if you are having issues. Make sure your needle is put in correctly, because the tops of those are just circles, right?
Yes, they're
Yeah.
round. There's no flat spot on them.
Yeah, so it's not like a lot of home sewing machines have a flat spot on the top of the needle where you can literally only insert it one way. These are round, which means that you can insert it anyway. And so you have to make sure that you are putting it up into the chuck correctly.
Yes, and on all these machines, there is a little sight window right here. If we can still,
Yep.
right here.
Oh yeah,
So you can see if your needle is seated all the way.
because that's also
So
important too.
if it's not grabbing your bobbin thread, check that because it's either too far or
Too far down. Yeah, if you don't unscrew that set screw far enough, that needle will kind of get stuck and it won't go all the way back up in, and then you're gonna have issues as well. So,
here's the roller edge guide that
That it
comes with
comes
the
with.
machine. Yep. There's a little flat spot on this, I guess it would be a nut, and you just want to get it lined up with that groove, and it should just slide on. And you can put it wherever, get it really tight. And the one thing about these, they look like they won't swivel, but they will. So if you have a square corner, you can swivel that out of the way, rotate your piece, and then rotate that back.
there you go. Yep, so that is the roller edge guide that the class 3 and the class 4 come with. There is a flip down roller edge guide that you can purchase, and I think it's like $100 or something. So,
I don't have any of the extra attachments.
oh.
So there's like, I think 3 total different attachments for this. There's the standard one, there's one that's raised for doing, I think it's for holsters, and then there's one other, I can't quite remember what that was.
That's the shearling, or like the saddle,
Yeah.
saddle blanket one.
Both of those you have to change quite a few things on this, but
So this is the standard needle plate that it comes with.
Yep.
And I think you have to buy the premium package to get the other 2.
And this is a standard foot that comes with.
Okay.
I don't think we sell these feet, but we found them somewhere before I've been here. So, but there's left feet, there's right feet, this is a left and a front. There's, a right and a front. There's full. There's all kinds of different ones.
Okay. So those are the feet.
Yep.
Oh, yep.
The one thing I do wish every other machine had is a reverse without a spring. So you can go reverse first if you want. So if you're back stitching, you can back stitch, then forward stitch, so you have 2 lock stitches instead of 3.
Right.
And it's just nice not having to, try and do this as you're...
So this knob
back
also
stitch.
sets your stitch length.
Yep.
So you can rotate this in and out, or this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't turn at all,
So
does
you
it?
just lift it up a little bit,
You unscrew that.
counterclockwise or lefty-loosey, and that makes your stitch bigger.
Yeah. So the longer you are here, and then whenever you push it, it reverses in the same amount of distance that you're going forward.
Yep.
So this is whatever stitch length you set forward. When you knock it all the way to the top, that is now your reverse stitch length that should fall back into the same holes
Yeah.
that you went forward in.
So if you ever get a machine and it has little metal shims, leave those in there because they have timed it perfectly. If you need to,
Sorry,
hold on.
we have an itch.
The camera's shaking.
Okay.
If you need to adjust your pressure foot, if it's
Oh, hang on. We only got the very top of the machine.
okay.
Perfect.
Carry on.
If you're sewing like veg tan or harness or bridle or something, this right here, lefty loosey, and hopefully it'll leave less of an impression from your feet.
So I do think that was one of our questions. Pressure foot marks no matter how much loosening of the tension.
Yeah. I know on our 26s and some of our 20s, we have them backed as far as they'll go out. On this one, I think Jim actually modified this one and shaved the spring a little bit because normally this is very, very difficult. and this is very easy. You just gotta live with it.
Well, and so like there's a couple things, like if you're working with vegetable tan leather, wait till your leather's dry to sew it, because if it's even a little bit damp from tooling or molding or whatever you've been doing, it's gonna leave pressure foot marks.
Yeah.
You can kind of hammer a lot of that out sometimes, or if you're working with oil tan leathers, take some saddle soap and you can kind of burnish it out as much as you can. I know that Leather Machine has come out with all smooth because they used to be serrated on the feet, and so now there is a smooth foot option. It doesn't come with serrated anymore,
No,
does
I'm
it?
pretty sure they all come with smooth.
Yeah, so that used to be a really big issue. So if you have an older version and you have feet with the serrations on the bottom, invest in a pair of smooth feet, and that will help.
Another thing you can do if you don't want to buy new ones, but they're usually not that much, is take them out and like an emery board.
Sand them off, grind them off.
Another thing, if you're doing veg tan with any of these machines, before you start with your project, run a scrap piece through, not just to check your tension, but to get any excess oil that runs down.
Oh, we should talk about oiling.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of these are very easy to oil. They're all marked red. Some of these are worn off on these production machines, but in the manuals it says every 6 hours of continuous use, which is a lot of use. But generally I tell people use your best judgment.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to see, but like this hole right here is marked in red. This hole right here is marked in red. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes plus these 2 caps. Do those come off?
So this is a very old machine, and they have little rubber caps. The new ones, they have a little cross on them, so you can stick a little oil
through it.
Yep.
And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes up here. And then you just put a couple drops of oil in whenever you need to oil it. So you're not overloading it. But like he said, if you have oiled it recently and you're getting ready to start, grab a piece of scrap leather and run it through, because you will kind of have some excess oil that's moving through the machine.
And whenever you do oil, I usually take the thread out of everything and just run it for 10 seconds or so just to get everything turned around.
Yeah.
And one of the big things, does the class 3 have? I was looking for oil wicks. There might have been oil wicks on this, I'm not sure. But, so there's little cotton wicks or whatever type of wick they are. Leave those.
Yeah, so sometimes there will be a wick that is wrapped around.
We can show on that one when we get to it.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah, I had somebody one time that cut their wick off, and I was like, oh, you can't put that back on. Don't do that.
It's not the worst thing, but you do have to oil it a lot more in a lot of places.
Yeah. All right, so the Curious Asparagus is very curious about what we're doing today, and so I'm going to go over a couple things real fast. So we are going over the machines that we sell. These are Cobra machines sold by the Leather Machine Company. Right now we are talking about their Class 3. Anything that we talk about here is applicable to their Class 4 machine as well. We will also be going over the 20 and the 26 that they sell. These are leather industrial sewing machines. And then we haven't got to talk about the motor yet, so we will get there soon. Anyways, so that's what we're doing.
The 3, 4, and 7 are all the same, just different throat length.
The 3, 4, and the 425. The 7 is different.
Yeah,
the 425. Nobody needs to buy a Class 7. I don't know why anybody would ever need to buy a Class 7.
Unless you're sewing through like 2x4s.
That thing is the scariest machine I've ever seen. In any case, we bought one time just to have one on retail because we were like, well, that looks fun. And I was like, I don't know who would ever need this. Anyways.
Yeah, the needle is like a pen replacement
it's like
size.
An ice pick.
Yeah.
So this is a heavy-duty sewing machine that you can sew through leather. So if you're making holsters or knife sheaths, you're never going to be able to sew that on a home sewing machine. It does not have enough torque. It doesn't have enough lift. So this machine will sew through upwards of 1 inch.
I think it says 7/8.
It does say 7/8, so almost an inch thick.
You know, what I say, as long as it fits under the foot and under the needle, it will generally sew it, but it might not always start. So you might have to get it started and then go.
Yeah. So I guess talking about that, let's talk about the motor that this machine runs with.
It's a servo motor, unlike the old clutch motors that everybody hates.
So somebody was talking about, so we'll spin this guy around and we'll talk about.
And this is the old motor, but it's still functionality the same.
Okay. Are the buttons on the,
Buttons are on the front.
No, they're,
yeah, well, they're on the front.
oh yeah, the front.
No, they're not on the front, they're just on the front.
I would have to get a manual out for this old one because it's not as
What?
user-friendly as the new ones. The new ones you just press up and down and it changes the speed.
There's an up and down.
Yeah, but it goes into like A's and B's, and then you have to figure out which one of those because you can.
This one has, so this is the old, so if you have an old machine, like maybe 3 years and
Yeah.
older, so this is the motor that you probably have. Servo motor. If you have a new machine, our class 26 has the newer servo motor style, so we will look at that one when we get there, and your class 3 might have this servo motor that we have on our 26.
And some of the older ones didn't even have a screen; they just had a dial.
Chevy, you don't need a class 7, you crazy kid. Okay. Do they still make sewing machines this powerful? Yeah, this is,
Yeah.
you can buy a new one of these. Ours just look old because they've been in our shop for a while. We are using our shop machines. I don't know. This guy's a little faded, you know,
Yeah.
his color's a little faded.
Well, I think they also used to do them kind of white and a gray color, and
Yeah.
but,
Oh, well, those are the artisans. Yeah. All right. Oh, look at that. You can see the little buttonies thingies.
yeah. I'm not gonna press them because I don't want to actually make the machine go in reverse, because you can do that. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but
So all these machines have a servo motor, so that is speed adjustable.
Yeah.
You can change what the max speed is that you go with the machine. They all also have this guy right here, which is a speed reducer. So this thing allows you to drive that servo motor like a car. So the harder that you press on the gas pedal, the faster the machine will go up to the limit that you set the servo motor to go to. This also allows you to keep the same torque when you are running the machine at slow speeds as the same as a high speed. So what Andy was talking about earlier is that clutch motors, you hit the gas and it just goes full bore. You're just a bunny out of the gate.
Yeah.
This allows you to go very slowly and still have the same amount of torque to drive through the leather. So if you are going through 3/4 of an inch of leather, if you're making a knife sheath or if you're making some heavy duty belt or you're sewing a saddle, whatever it is that you're doing, it allows you to drive that needle through, because if you didn't have this, you wouldn't be able to go slowly and still make the stitch.
So we were messing the other day with a class 26, which they share the same motor, and we were able to get it down to 100 RPMs.
which is stupid.
I mean, it's
Like it's literally, choom, choom.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's
All right, well, Andy, why don't you
But-
show them what that means?
Also, you might as well have your machine maxed out on the motor, because the servo, it's not going 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I think those are like 3,600 RPM, the old clutch motors, but. So,
And then all the machines also have a foot, or the 3 and the 4
Yeah.
have a foot lift. You can't see it. There's 2 pedals down here. The small one lifts your foot for you so you don't have to manually do it.
otherwise there's a little lever right here.
Yeah. Hang on, there it is. See, so this is your foot lift, and then that's your gas pedal. Hi, Chevy.
All right. With every machine, I always like to, I would normally hold this with my right hand, but I'm just trying to hold on to your thread relatively tight for your first couple stitches, because otherwise it's going to rat nest on the bottom.
Yeah.
To basically keep tension. But the thing with servo motors is, I think this one's set probably halfway speed-wise, but you can just easily throttle it. Very easy.
Let's talk about where to have your needle when going around corners or when,
If you need a lift and turn.
yeah. Let's
Lift
see
and
what the
turn
bend and
or-
snap looks like for a sewing
Here,
machine.
I'll have a round corner and a square corner.
If I wanted to do things like holsters, if you want to make holsters, I would get a class 3. So the thing, like a 26 will do a holster, but your thread size maxes out at 207. So if you like a holster with a thick thread, this machine can go to a 277 or a 346. And so if you are only doing heavy duty stuff, I would get a class 3. You could get a class 4 if you feel like, oh, maybe I'm gonna make a large heavy duty tote bag someday and I want some extra throat length. Otherwise, the class 3 is fine.
So the 26 will do 277 on the top, but it will not work in the bobbin.
And also, like, you probably want to be running a machine for a while before you decide to willy-nilly like go outside, because I believe on our website we have the needle and thread guide that tells you what needle that works with what thread size. Is that correct, Tony?
Yeah, it's also in the catalog.
Okay, it's in the catalog, it's in our sewing machine guide, so if you're looking, the class 3 and the class 4 have their own needle system. They're a larger needle, and then your flatbed and your 26 and like your class 18 and your 318, they take a smaller needle gauge. So this needle, the largest needle that you can get for this, will struggle to do like the two, like you have to really know what you're doing if you wanted to run 277 thread through it. Crystal, class 3 and 4 is going to be your saddle and tack machines. All right.
All right. Well, if I'm not, well, I won't be in the way once I start it here.
Watch switch to this camera over here.
Okay. Well, I made a very vague round corner and then a square corner here. So I could show this a lot better on a 26, but before you start turning, you want your needle on its way back up, but still in your leather before you turn it, because otherwise it can skip a stitch. And it doesn't take much to turn it. And that's one thing with these machines, you don't want to force it or push or pull, because then you'll get a short or a long stitch. And with a square corner, generally I would have my corners marked with wing dividers or something, but
Your stitch line already marked.
yeah.
Oh, that's a good shot.
So that looks like it would not quite be where I need it. So I'm going to lift the foot and place the needle right where I want it. And since this is a square corner, that roller edge guide's in the way. So I'm going to rotate it, lift my foot, rotate this, and then rotate that back.
Crystal, if you were buying a leather sewing machine at this point in time, I would never suggest having a machine with a clutch motor. It's just going to be like you're just making more work for yourself, and it's a higher learning curve. But if you get, I think any Adlers, probably if you can still find an Artisan, I don't think that that company exists anymore, but I guess I could be wrong. The Cobras, they all come with a servo motor and speed reducer. That's standard. There's not an option. There's an EPS servo motor versus this, but that's a whole guidance system thing.
So all of the new motors, like on that 26,
Yeah.
they are the EPS motor, and you just have to buy the top part.
the flywheel
Yeah.
attachment, yeah.
So one thing I like to do, I don't know if this is in frame,
Yep.
but I always like to pull my thread down. There's a little loop, grab that.
Maybe move this hand because we're over here.
No.
There you go. Perfect.
And I always like to pull my top thread through the back or the bottom, because generally you're never going to see that. And the same as I did the corners, I'm going to stitch, and if it doesn't look like it's gonna match up. So this is gonna be one really long stitch. So I'm gonna split the difference. Lift it up, and then place it right in the middle. And then do the same for that next stitch. And instead of back stitching, since we went in a full circle, I'm just gonna run over a few stitches to get your lock stitch.
Gonna do that? Can you do that last part one more time?
Maybe. You can do it on 26. And I like to pull my thread through again. So you will have maybe a little short stitch, or
A little bit. Oh,
There you go.
okay.
you will
No.
have a little short
Down.
stitch. Down more. Right here. Right here.
Right there.
Right there.
Right there. You will have a little short stitch or a long stitch depending on what your preference is, but they relatively match up there because I split the difference, and then there's my 2 lock stitches.
There you go.
Yeah.
Rython, we were just talking about, yes, you need to oil your machine on, Andy said the manuals typically say about every 6 hours of runtime.
Yeah.
You need to put, a couple drops of oil in all the holes that we went through earlier, but that's really like the most, blow it off, clean it out, just don't let it get all gunky and dusty and all those kind of things. But there's really not a lot of heavy maintenance. So the EPS, Crystal, the EPS machine, I think is just auto correcting to EPA because it doesn't know what an EPS is a needle positioning system. So it's the motor that we'll show you on the 26th when we get there. That connects to your flywheel, and you will tell it where you want the needle to stop. So every time you let your foot off of the gas, the EPS system will then position the needle either to be in your leather or out of the leather. Is that correct? Basically,
Yeah, you can adjust it to wherever you want.
Yeah.
So if you want it almost all the way back out, or if you want it all the way up, or if you want it all the way down, you can set it.
So if you've never used a machine before, that might be something. I know that we've put it on a couple and we're just like, nah, we don't like that because we're used to running the machines this way, and that was just something that felt off.
We do too many different things. If
Yeah.
you're doing the same thing over and over, it would be nice.
Yeah, it's more production based for the same item. Alrighty, let's see here. I think, is that enough on the 3?
Yeah, I think.
Alright, so that's enough on the class 3. We will now switch to the class 20. You want to do the 20?
Sure.
Okay. It's next in line, so we might as well. It's here. I'm just going to put this in here because then we can move it wherever we need to be. So this is a flatbed. I feel like we've done mostly what we use in our videos is the 26. These are the same capacity machines.
Except for thickness.
Correct. Basically, it's the same machine. It's just this one is a flatbed version. So like in our sewing room where we make all of our wallet interiors, this is the machine that we use. Like that's where I pulled it out of. It has a workspace just already attached to it. If you're just doing straight flat goods, if you're just sewing wallets, things like that, you're not doing bags or jackets or patches on things or whatever. This is a great, strictly like, I'm gonna do flat goods and I just need to sew flat things and have a lot of surface area. Great machine. This one, so in this, I will also just say like, the machine that we just went over, it is heavy duty only. You do not put a wallet interior into it and expect to sew 1 to 2 ounce or 3 ounce leather. It will just rip it apart. The needle is too big, the thread is too big, the tension is too much. It's not happy. That machine does not do lightweight things.
Maybe 6 ounces the thinnest, and that's pushing it with 138.
Yeah, it's just like the needle system is huge. So if you are doing lightweight goods, you're just gonna have this massive hole in your project. It's not gonna look great. It's not gonna be dainty. It's a big machine meant for heavy duty stuff. Like I cannot reiterate that enough, that machine is a heavy duty machine meant for conceal and carry belts, holsters, knife sheaths, not fine delicate work. This machine, however, will go up to a 1/2 of an inch.
I can't.
Right, like either
But
right below or right at a
there.
half inch. Both of these machines will.
Yeah.
So while they do light duty stuff, like they will sew like we sew wallet interiors, we take pigskin and sew it to fail cloth, like really lightweight kind of things. They will do that, but then also sew the wallet together really well. So you can have those like 3 or 4 layers of interior parts plus your 5 to 6 ounce back, and it will sew that. You can sew up to a half inch. You know, you could do like a lightweight holster here. Once again, you don't have like the thread capacity that has, but if you do a kind of a big mix of things, these are going to be like the machines to go and look at. If you do kind of a good mix and array of stuff, it's just like, okay, if I make a holster that's 1 inch thick, or I make a knife sheath that's 3/4 of an inch thick, I'm gonna have to hand sew that. Like there might still be projects that you're like, okay, I'm gonna delegate that this is still gonna be a hand sewn thing, but I can get through all my lightweight stuff with these guys. All right, I'm done.
All right.
Can you turn the EPS on and off?
I don't know about that. You could probably unplug it.
Yeah, it's connected to the flywheel, like it literally bolts onto the flywheel. There's a rod that comes down to the motor, from the flywheel to the motor, so it might be inconvenient to go back and forth. We haven't played around with that. That would be, you can email Leather Machine and ask them that question if you would like to. All right, class 3. I'm sorry, class 20.
Class 20. Where do we want to start?
You want to thread it? Let's thread it.
Hold on.
Oh, hold on. Tony's not ready.
All right.
All right. Is it all right?
Yep. Once again, you have your bobbin, your thread holder, and you want to make sure that you're coming out of your thread thingy up here. Very important. Thread up here.
I didn't get a light colored thread for this, but oh well.
You can see it.
It'll be fine. The same as like I did on the 3. You can use this for tension if you want. I don't. Just go in one side and then around through the top. There's 2 holes on here because this little tension system is made for double needle machines. You can go through either one. I've not seen it make a difference. So I usually just go through the top. If I can get through there.
Garrett, unfortunately, when it comes to leather work, there is no one machine fits all. The class 20 and the 26 are the closest. These are what I think are the newest machines on the market that are the closest to doing both, but it's still, there's not a one machine fits all.
So unlike the class 3, you don't go through your main tension first, so I always like to hold on to the thread. Once you're through that first hole, go up and over that one. And there's a peg right here. I'm going to go underneath that. And then to the left, around your main tension. And then there's one more peg right here. And we got over the top. Now that you're in there, I don't have to hold that anymore. Then this piece, you just go underneath it. And there's a little tiny kind of spring right here. And you'll either feel it or you can hear it click. It doesn't take much. And it's in there.
I heard it, but I doubt you guys did.
From there, there's also 2 holes in your
Needle uptake.
Yeah, the take-up arm. Once you go through there, everything is open, so you just push everything in.
It's like flossing your teeth, guys.
Yep. And the same as the 3 and all the other ones. So there's a top hole on this one. That's your viewport. You probably can't see that.
Oh, thanks.
Right here. That's your viewport. See if your needle's all the way up, and you want to go through this and left to right. Take this bobbin out here.
Mark, you can dress up your machine however you want. Alex has put a dinosaur. It also had a rubber ducky on the top, but I figured I'd take that off. The jumping lamb, though, was stuck on, so I also left him.
So I'll show this better on the 26, but I'll try and show it here too. So the manual tells you to go clockwise. It will work that way. It will also go counterclockwise, and I'll show you why I go counterclockwise instead of clockwise. So clockwise, the way it says in the manual, you drop it down, and then right here, you probably can't see it.
Oh, we got
it's
it.
dark. If you're trying to pull with
We
it,
can't see it now that your hand.
if you're trying to pull with it, it's very difficult to get it down into that groove. So yeah, I just barely got it. And this is one of the #1 phone calls I get. Oh, I have horrible tension issues with the 20 or the 26. Is they'll go under there and get it through the hook, but I'm not actually in the tension spring.
Just willy-nilly.
Yep. So I'm even pulling on it, it's just loose.
And that's clockwise.
Yes.
You put it in clockwise.
The way it's supposed to be done, but I'm just showing you why I do it the other way.
Okay, so now we're going to install it with the thread coming out counterclockwise
Yeah.
on the bobbin.
Counterclockwise, it's easier to get it down in the groove. Normally I'm holding on to this. I'm not left-handed.
Sorry. But it is a really good shot, so
Yeah.
if you could just be left-handed for a minute, that'd be great.
Oh my gosh, I'm just gonna have 2 yards here. Well, I just got it in there. And once you get it in there, since you're pulling against it instead of with it, sometimes you'll either feel it or you'll hear it.
Oh.
Now it's not free spooling. And then you drop that down.
So counterclockwise gives you a little bit of an advantage when it comes to making sure that it's really, it's hooked into the tensioner.
And I'll tell you why they tell you not to go counterclockwise. If you're sewing 1,000,000 miles an hour and then you just stop, they're worried about the bobbin continuing to unwind and it gets loose. I have never had that happen. Not to say it won't happen. Do it at your own risk.
Gotcha.
I know 3 or 4 people in the shop that go counterclockwise because it's easier, it's more consistent, everybody's sewing really slow. And with this machine, you have a lever back here, if it's there. Oh, there it is. Ow.
That's a tight lever.
It is a tight lever. I don't know if that's ever been used.
So once again, you get the lever for the knee, or for the foot
That will
uptake.
also separate your main tension right here. You also have a knee lift, which you probably can't see. And it will also release it. And if you want to lift this, you can knee lift and then lift the lever. Make it a little easier. And anytime I'm messing with these, since it's open foot, you want the thread out the back. If you're not comfortable with fingers, take your scissors, whatever, just do that.
There you go. Now you got the thread up from the bobbin coming out your feed dogs.
Yep. There's that. I can show this on the 26, it's a little easier.
Okay. Kind of same. Do you want to pull back out here real fast, Tony? Because that is a little bit different for the front of the machine so we can see this. Oh, thanks. All right, so this is your thread?
This is your stitch length.
Right. Sorry, yeah.
With this machine, you push it and you turn it. I'll try not to adjust it too much since this is one they use for...
And then you can kind of see this also moving. This is your reverse lever right here. So when you push that, it should, and you make sure every time you want to push it all the way down.
Yep.
Because if you only push it halfway, then it's not catching your full stitch length.
Yeah, you'll stitch halfway or past it or...
Yeah, so same thing, the Class 26 has the same thing, so you push this lever all the way down, and that should reverse you back into the holes. like Andy was saying, it's like a little inconvenient because you have to hold this while reversing, where on the 3 and the 4, that's just a lever that you can move and then it just stays there.
You can have both hands on your project.
Yeah. William asked, how many extras do you have to buy to get these ready to work? So each machine comes with a couple of bobbins. I think it's like 4 bobbins. So you get 4 bobbins standard with the machine. You come with 1 to 2 spools of thread, depending on if you buy like the premium or the standard version. And then you get 2 packs of needles usually?
I think it's 1.
1 pack of needles.
1 10 pack.
And so, depending on what you want to sew, a couple things that you might get. Typically 4 bobbins is plenty of bobbins because that can give you 4 different colors or 3 or 4 different sizes and 2 colors, whatever it is. So maybe a couple extra bobbins if you really want a full array of colors and thread thicknesses. But some extra spools of thread for whatever colors of project you want to work on, and then maybe a couple extra needle packs depending on what size thread you would like to use. I think that this machine comes with 138 and then 22s?
22s.
And 22s. I haven't sold sewing machines in like 2 years. All right, so this machine comes with 138, a spool of 138 natural thread, and a 10 pack of size 22 needles. So depending on what you want to sew when you get it, really thread and needles. If you buy these machines through us, if you buy the Class 20 or the Class 26 through Springfield Leather, you will get on us a flip down roller edge guide. So that is a $100 value that comes with the machine. But otherwise, the machine comes ready to go. You really don't need anything else. You don't need a flip down roller edge guide to sew.
Thread snips, all kinds of
comes with snips.
It comes with
oil. Yeah. A 4-ounce bottle of oil. Like, it just kind of comes with everything to get you started. So yeah, like probably buy another 32-ounce bottle of oil maybe 6 months in, and whatever.
The 20 will come with a big bottle because it is a self-oiling.
Oh, he has a base.
It does self-oil, but there are still oil points on the machine.
So you've got 1 here, 2 back here, 1 here, 1 here.
Yeah.
1 here, 1 here. But there is a bed of oil. So that is another thing. This machine leans back, correct? Yep. So you have to take this off to do that, don't you?
Yes and no.
All right.
Some of them are too tight, but that's how you're supposed to get your tension, is the machine's back, you put your belt on, then tilt it forward.
Oh,
and get
gotcha.
Your tension. Yeah.
Gotcha. So this machine tilts back. There's an oil tray underneath here. So one thing for maintenance on this one is every couple months, maybe lean it back, see if you've lost some needles or bobbins or who knows what down there, and clean it out, because that does happen. A magnet is really nice to have for the machines. We have a magnet on almost every machine that you can house extra needles or your snips or whatever it is that you've got going on here, just to have handy, because these are cast iron, so everything just kind of, do you glue those or does it just stick?
It just sticks,
yep. All right, so anyways, I think we'll kind of leave this one here and then we'll move to the Class 20 because we are kind of getting to that hour mark. So we'll go over the Class 26 so you guys can see that, because that is the most popular machine. Somebody was asking earlier what the lead time is. I would have to check. I know typically we're about 4 to 8 weeks out probably on Class 26s. It depends on the machine. I think the 3s and the 4s we're doing okay on, as far as, you could probably get it in a couple weeks. These machines do come palletized. You have to be able to get some sort of an 18-wheeler down your street. Otherwise, maybe you need to go to your local distribution hub for whatever freight company we ship with. But
on the 20, there's a plug on the front. Leather Master was saying his is a window instead of a plug.
Oh yeah.
I think it's hiding. No. Yeah, I remember there is a sight glass there. And you can put oil in it. It doesn't say that that's what it's for, but it's to see that it is getting oil.
Okay. All right. So once again, these machines are very, very similar in their capacity and how they run. This is just the more popular of them because of the versatility of the post. So the cylinder arm allows you to, there is a table that you can get. I think it's like $120, $150, somewhere in there.
I think it's 125.
Okay, so there is a table that you can get to mount here that will make it into a flatbed, where you don't have the alternative. So like with this, you can sew hat patches, you can sew patches onto jackets, you can do a lot of other things. You can get into tight areas and tote bags and things like that with this machine that you can't do with the 20.
All right.
Okay, gonna snip that thread.
Yep. Say so. Not sure how I managed to not cut that 3 times.
All right, and this one will go over the servo motor stuff with their new motor that you get.
All right. Start with threading this machine too. It's very similar to the 20, but it's even easier. You don't have as many little holes to go through.
Now, do the 26s all have this, or do
Yes.
some of them have that plate?
They all have this.
Okay, okay. I feel like for a while they were just putting the plate on.
Yeah.
Okay, but they
I've
got
only
their
ever
sticks
seen
again.
these. Yeah.
Perfect.
Just hold it, makes it easier. Instead of going around this way,
Hey,
you
Dean
go
made it.
around to the right, up and over. And with this machine, they started marking the little peg because you could never see it. You want to go out and over the top of it. Now you're in your tension. Same with this, you just lightly clip. There you go.
Do you know what the amp draw is on the machine?
The what?
The amp draw?
Oh, I have no idea. It's not very much. I could probably look it up. It probably says on the motor.
Voltage, 110 volts, 60 hertz, power, 600 watts. Speed 100 to 4,500 RPMs.
It should be less than 10 amps, easy. It's just a little tiny motor.
Actually, they can
Very
probably
easy.
get a Class 7 pretty quickly, Garrett, because they don't sell very many of them.
Yeah.
So one thing, if you do have the machine threaded well and you're happy with it, and you're changing thread colors or sizes or whatever, you can tie on back here to where your thread is below the thing, and then pull through,
Yeah.
and then just check all of those tension areas and make sure everything is clipped in correctly. That is what I do when I sit down at a sewing machine.
Yeah. So I'll just show you, since this machine's a little easier, even though I don't have the best magnet. I'll find one. This way.
Okay.
So with the 20 and the 26, there's multiple. You can either get your fingernail under there, but I just clipped mine. You can get the edge of scissors. Just don't really, well, these are rounded ones. To lift it. Or if you have just a little fridge magnet or something, you can get it and lift it up. It's another easy little trick there. And the same, I always liked going counterclockwise. Somebody might tell me I'm wrong, but it's okay. And just like before, don't put tension on it, just hold it. You can either advance it by hand or with the wheel. Helps if the machine's on. There you go.
Look at that.
You can close it up. And can we see inside or not?
Kind of.
Well, there's a little cotton wick right here. And when you oil, it soaks down through there and then underneath your bobbin case. But there's also a wick on the back.
Oh, yeah,
we
I
can
see it
show
now.
too. And that's that.
All right,
right
so
there.
that's threading the 26.
Yep. I'll show a couple. This will be more of the tips and tricks thing. All right. So roller edge guide. Some people just use it as an edge guide. One of the biggest things that I always try and show people, right here, I know you can't see it, but there is a screw that is knurled like this, and you can turn it, and raise it. So if you're sewing like a pocket onto a bag or something, so I need to go up a little bit more, it's clear. So let's say, I'll get a little clearer piece here.
Jan, I do not know about Cobras made for Europe. That would be something you would reach out to Leather Machine Company. You can just send them an email. Their contact information should be on their website to find out what their European options are.
I'll do something a little thinner. And this is also a little, so let's say this is a pocket and you want to reinforce that top stitch. I like to advance my needle right before it's going to go down. Make sure I got my thread in the right spot. And place it right at that edge. And you stitch. You could stitch one more. One thing about back stitching off a ledge, sometimes it will like to slip. So you can back stitch with the lever, but I always like to advance it right before it goes back down in the leather, pull it up, place it right back in the same spot, and then go forward again.
Crystal, we don't have a lot of experience with Juki machines. We don't sell them. I know that they have similar models to what we're showing you here. And Jim might have some, out of the way information that he's just acquired by working on machines that people have brought in. But
I've had one. I've used them down at Silver City.
Okay.
They're fine. They're Japanese machines.
So Andy's had some experience. So if you want to give Andy a holler on the telephone with your questions.
Another thing, some people call it burning threads. You don't want to burn your thread.
You want to melt your thread.
You want to melt your thread.
So perfect.
That's a little long, so trim it. You want to have your flame above it. Are we good? Mm-hmm. And just get it close. Sometimes it will catch fire, but you just create a little button. Because if you burn it, it's going to discolor it. And if you're burning the thread, there's a better chance of you melting your thread that you want to stay. That's two little tricks. You reinforced your top, the roller edge guide.
Crystal just had a little comment about you can also spin the leather to backstitch with the needle in.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes though, I might be a little bit worried about you undoing the loop.
Yeah, I've had it. Here, we'll just do it. I've had it skip a stitch doing that. But whenever you do that, you want your needle almost all the way back out.
Okay.
You want that completed, then turn it. But there's a lot of projects you can't
get in, yeah.
Turn that direction.
That is true. If you're working on a tote bag,
and
it'd be hard.
When you're done stitching, see it's up out of the needle. If you continue back to where it's almost all the way back down,
you can't see through your thumb.
Sorry. Then back up. Because if you see now, it's gonna mostly pull your thread up.
There you go.
But if you let's just do another stitch here. So it's just up. See, it's caught because it hasn't fully completed that stitch. So you want to wiggle it back and forth. Now it's loose. But then you also have a weird loose stitch.
Mm-hmm. So I mean that's really important. So the needle progression going down and then back up with like the hook process, the hook rotates back and forth.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you have your bobbin thread or your top thread coming down, and the needle pushes it down, and then on the way back up, it makes a loop. Tony, you want to go to the overhead or the front? We don't have an overhead, thanks.
It's okay.
Tony's gonna give me a thing. He's gonna be like, Liz. Anyways, so your top thread comes down in your needle, right? It pushes it down, and then on the way back up, it slacks right there and creates this loop. And the hook comes through that little scarf in the needle, hooks onto that, inside that loop, and then as the needle comes back up, then it's creating this knot, right?
Yeah.
And so if you aren't allowing the needle to make the full rotation and the bobbin to make its full rotation, you're going to end up with a missed stitch, or you'll skip a stitch, or you're wadded up somehow.
Yep, it'll be a rat's nest.
Yeah, because you're not allowing that completion. And so you want to make sure that you're not like overly manipulating the flywheel as you go. And then you also, you just need to be aware of the mechanics. And one thing to do is to watch, and especially on the class 3 and the class 4, it's pretty obvious because you can literally watch the shuttle, the shuttle do its thing. This one is a little bit more difficult because most of that is hidden underneath and you can't see it. But it is really important to understand the mechanics of what's happening because that will inform how you go about sewing and how you do, you know, your stitches, or, you know, like if you are having an issue with the machine, how to troubleshoot. Like, okay, what is happening with my thread? What is happening as I go? You know, like if you are having tension issues and you just have like all of your knots. So that knot ideally will be housed in the middle of your leather project. The loop that it makes, you want to have enough tension on the top and enough tension on the bottom for that knot to be, and then, so that goes back to your thread and your needle. If your needle is too small and your thread is too big, the knot is just going to get stuck on the bottom and it won't be able to pull back up through that hole because your needle is not creating a large enough hole in your leather for it to pull 4 layers, right, of thread up through that hole. So you're starting off with 2 coming down, and then once you pick up the 2 on the bottom, if your needle is too small, it's never going to pull it up through that hole. You have anything to add to that?
No.
Okay. So those are just kind of some things you can't, whenever you're struggling, you need to make sure, like, oh, am I working with a really dense leather? Because if your leather is overly dense and you're trying to use the smallest needle you can get away with the biggest thread, you're never going to have, your tension's never going to come out correctly. Or if you're like, man, this hole is huge and I just see the knot in the middle of everything, that means that those combination of items aren't correct. If you have a really loose leather or really stretchy leather, you might be able to get away with a smaller needle and a little bit of a bigger thread size because you have room in there for it to stretch out and expand. If you're working, especially like things that are super lightweight, you can't run a heavy thread through it. If you're trying to sew up a wallet interior, you need to be working with either 69 or 46 thread. I know that we have the 46 bobbins typically, and then we've got the 69. Is that?
It's usually 69.
69. Yeah. So otherwise, it's just not going to look right if you're trying to sew 2-ounce leather. What does the arm thing do?
Which arm thing?
Are you talking about this, Crystal? So because that has the weird walking foot, it has to be up. My hand crank one, I lift the foot and needle and spin.
So it's a patch machine.
Oh yeah, she did say that she had a patch machine. Yeah, we love magnets. What's the dial with the numbers? Go ahead.
Stitch length.
Yep, that's your stitch length.
These don't necessarily mean anything, they're just references. So if you know on this thickness with this thread, you like it at a 1, you can write that down somewhere if you want. And then if you do something thicker and you want a 4, you just turn it to that. And with these machines, if it's difficult, so it's easy to go big, but going small, if it's difficult, don't force this. Take the pressure off, turn this, because you can break something.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Once again, this is your reverse, just like on the thing.
Yeah.
This is our flip down roller edge guide. So flip down roller edge guide. This does not have a edge guide here, so this attaches to the back of the machine. Like I was talking about with the Class 20, if you buy the machine through us, you will get one of these for free. It's about $110 value, I think. If you buy the machine through Leather Machine or whoever else, you do have to purchase this separately. But that is the roller edge guide.
It comes with 2 attachments. One is this roller, and then the one that comes on it is a little flat, but they both are in the same thing.
It's like a fabric guide.
Yep.
Yeah. Tangled up, I will give her a treat when we're done here.
Just little things that make your life easy. Little lanyard
Yep.
ID badge things.
And these are
scissors.
magnetic strips here that
Yep.
hold all the bobbins.
You can buy this off of Amazon for like 15 bucks. I had to modify, it's made for smaller bobbins, so I had to flatten it a little bit so these would sit on there. These are just little magnets, but you could have a flat magnet that you label. Any used needles, I hate when people put used needles back in a brand new case. It just drives me nuts. So you just have them up here.
And then these are labeled with the size 18,
Yep.
22, 23, 21. So
Yep.
if you're looking for a size, you know that it's here. Do you want to go over tension real fast?
Yeah.
Okay.
If your tension, any of these machines, if your knots, let's see if I can find,
They do all come with a gooseneck light.
yeah.
This light LED here.
So on the 3, I didn't have the tension fully set because it was a last minute thing. But if you can see your little knots like that, if it's like that on the bottom, that means you need to righty-tighty. Righty-tighty brings it up. If you see that,
your knot is on the bottom of the leather, so you need the top to pull that knot to the middle.
correct. And then, you know, vice versa. If it's on the top, you want a lefty-loosey, so the bobbin will bring it down.
I think very rarely do you adjust the bobbin tension. You're mostly adjusting this tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost never touch that unless you're very first setting up your machine and you want it a little bit tighter or a little looser.
Yeah.
And if you have it set for thin material, 90% of the time it will work for thick material. But if you're going thick to thin, you might have to fiddle with this. And once you have it set, there's usually little clicks. Like 5 clicks is a lot.
Okay.
So click, 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 click. If you want to, you can put a little dot on the face so you can reference where it's at.
Gotcha. I was to say, always, like Andy
Here's
had
your
mentioned
little-
before, yeah, that's not gonna,
Yeah.
there it is. All right, so that's thread and needle for the 20 and the 26.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it goes up to 346, so, what was I gonna say?
Another little, I took snips, I've had these for a while, around them. And if you have a magnet, you can hook it to the machine, and whenever you're done, you don't even have to.
See. I don't even know where you're at. Oh, I see.
He's just below.
Here, I can pull it up.
Oh.
Whenever you're done, you can just run it through there,
Just make sure you blend
Yeah.
it first so you're not
Yeah.
cutting your wrist open.
and you can bend these little tines so you can get it closer, so it's not big enough to stick your hand in. But you could have that down there or something. You just bobbin winders, the only
Oh,
thing
yeah.
we have done.
So every machine also comes with a bobbin winder. They are usually attached to the table.
All right.
Oh, and then we want to show them that wick and say, do
Yeah.
not cut.
All right. And one other thing we didn't say, depending on what you're doing, you can run the next size smaller thread on your bobbin so you don't have to change it as often. Like if you're doing belts and you're doing 207 on the top, you could do 138 on the bottom. And instead of getting 2 belts, you might be able to get 4 belts.
Yeah. So thread size does affect tension. Maybe not settings, but, well, can. So your thread, your leather thickness, and your needle size will all affect your tension. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So anytime that you are going to sew a project, make sure that you have a sample of the same thing that you're about to sew. So if you're doing a bag and you have 3 layers of whatever the leather is, take 3 scrap pieces and run them through the machine and make sure that everything is good before you start sewing. I think Andy said that before, but it's just make sure that the exact thing that you're sewing, don't just grab like some random piece of scrap and be like, okay, my machine is good. Like the exact thing that you're gonna sew, put yourself a little cake together and sew it. Like, just do that.
All right. There's a little hole. Let's see if I can do this. Then you want to go around the back and underneath. That's all it shows you to do in the manual. Just like the 3, I always like to go back out the hole so there's no way for it to pop out. I'm struggling.
You still are. That's real bad.
All right. Now you're in the tension. With this, from the inside out, and you can hold it if you want to, but if you're using 138 or smaller, push it through the middle, and then you can push it on.
And that will hold it.
Then it holds it. Then you just trim that so it doesn't get tangled up.
And then lift your foot up.
Yeah, we'll push this forward. I just like to take out that slack. And one of the main things, if you're not sewing anything, make sure your thread is out of your needle. And just in case, take any thread out that might be in your bobbin. And the main reason you want to do that is if you're not sewing anything, it's going to still try and create loops, and it's going to rat's nest and lock your bobbin case up. And one other thing, lift your foot, because these machines still run. You can't disengage while you wind this.
All of that is still running like you would be sewing when you wind a bobbin, which is why they have like this bobbin winder with an extra spool of thread option so that you can just wind bobbins as you sew.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stop. You don't have to do this separately.
So, and the main reason you want to lift the foot is so it's not just metal on metal. So now it's not going to hit anything. It'll just make noise. And then you just go when you go, and then it will hit this little spring, and it'll pop off.
There was one person that said, my bobbin likes to pop off when it's only half full. Is there anything I can do?
So, yes, this little spring right here, if it's half full, you would want to pull this out. Just bend it.
Just kind of readjust that angle.
And you can generally tell if you place it together if it's inside your bobbin or outside your bobbin. If it's outside your bobbin, it's going to ball up and be a nasty mess because it'll never pop off. And then if it's too far in, it'll only go halfway.
So that's, you just have to manually change that little spring.
Yeah.
And then to get your bobbin threaded correctly. Let's hear. So Crystal, yes. So one thing that can help tension issues is to use a 1 step down thread in your bobbin from your top thread. So if you are sewing, like Andy said, a belt, and you have 277 in the top, you can use 207 in the bobbin. Or if you're using 207 in the top, you can use 138 in your bobbin. That is what we do here. That means you can get away with a slightly smaller needle, so your hole's a little bit smaller, and then the machine doesn't have nearly as a hard time pulling up that slightly smaller thread in the bottom. So that is one thing that we suggest for people. Is if you are having a lot of tension issues and you just can't figure it out, step down in your bobbin. Typically when you're doing lightweight projects, if you're using 69 thread, you can use 69 in the bobbin. It's usually not a big deal. Or like 138, or especially if it's a situation where the backside of your project is going to be exposed and it's going to be visible, and you don't want a lighter weight thread in that, then you might just have to step up your needle in order to make it work. But that is something that kind of can help alleviate a lot of tension issues, is to use one weight lighter in the bobbin than your top thread. So thanks for giving me the Facebook. Oh, is that, I have the, thanks. I was like, what are you doing? I have the presser for the presser backed all the way off, but still get track marks.
You'll always have them a little bit.
One thing that Denny will do, you can hammer them out when you're done. So if you have like a really...
Yeah, you can take a spoon and rub it.
Yeah, if you have like a modeling spoon, you can rub it. Or if you have a really nicely polished, like jeweler's hammer or one of our shoe hammers or whatever. And you can kind of hammer that seam down to knock some of those marks out.
If you're really inclined, you can take your spring out and shave some of it off.
All right, but if you do that,
yeah.
Don't call us when it's weird. Be real confident, or buy an extra spring before you do that.
Because these springs are very, very stiff.
Yeah. I think sometimes, or you can adjust the foot. So if your foot is just leaving that one mark because you are sewing things that are really thick, especially with veg tan, it tends to mark more than other leathers because it is moldable. It's, you know, that's just kind of the nature of veg tan. Try getting a wider foot, or like the foot that we had on, I have to look at the foot options for this machine. Is there one that will distribute the pressure a little bit more?
I don't know that we carry them, but there is left and a right, and then there's a full, which is both sides and some of the back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that specific foot it's going to distribute your tension or your pressure from your foot a little bit better, so you'd get less marks. It kind of depends on the machine that you're working with there, Nick. Let's see here. These are all walking foot machines. So there's the feed dog on the bottom. It comes up and does this. There's your foot on the top that does this, and it self feeds the leather through. So you're not manually feeding, which is, you know, you set your distance for your stitch, and it will feed itself. So you don't have to manually be moving it. I know like a lot of, you know, like the Titman box, it doesn't do that. You have to manually still mark all your stitches. This is a feed dog's walking feet. It moves your leather on its own. Let's see here. I think
the wicks.
Oh yeah, let's see here. Are we still in here? Just real fast. This is very important. They now put these stickers on them. We're trying, but sometimes because it's oily, the sticker falls off. So this right here, this is not something that you cut off. This is an oil wick. It is wrapped all around this. It does look a little funky. Right here. You see all of this wrapped up in here? Do not cut that off. That is an oil wick that is oiling this whole arm. So, which is when you oil these two things, it filters through. You're also oil, there's 2 dots down here. You're gonna oil this. Do not cut that off. If you do, you're going to have to manually oil this mechanism a lot, and it's gonna be a pain. So don't cut that off. It's there for a reason. It's not hurting anything. Leave that be. Leave it be. Don't touch. Do not touch. All right.
The only other thing, there's 3 different needles that will work in these machines: round, spear point, and diamond. Round is for cloth, and spear and diamond are for leather and upholstery.
Yeah, so they'll have like a D on them if they're a diamond point. So that's a cutting point, which is for leather. If it has a R on it, that is a round point, and that is for, like Andy said, fabric only. So if you are sewing canvas bags, you want a round needle because you don't want to be cutting the cloth. You just want to be moving the fibers apart. So like most of your home sewing machine needles, look, there's Abigail, are round because you don't want to cut the cloth, like I said, because then cloth frays. It's not like leather. So make sure you have the right needle for the right job that you're doing. All right.
All right.
Luna really wants to play ball, so we're going to do that. So thanks everybody for hanging out. I know this was a little bit of a long one, but hopefully everybody got something out of it. Like I said, on Friday we'll be going through the bell knife skiver, the splitter, class 14 splitter, and the strap cutter. So still Cobra machines, that is what we carry, that's what we sell, that's what we use, and what we know. So that's what we're going to go over. So if you have any thoughts, questions, comments about those machines, come back on Friday or send us an email or a Facebook message with your questions so we can try to go over them. So Have a great day. We'll see you guys. Oh, hey, we'll have a little bit of an after party here real quick, and I will show you guys. We are doing lambskins tomorrow. We have our Italian goat, lamb, whatever it is. Tiny little cute guys. Lots of fun things. I've got them laid out on the table, so I will show you guys some of that real fast to get you all amped up for tomorrow's live shopping. Bye.
Bye.